plate. Come after me! I'm a man! I'm 40! Can't wait! Let's go!
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Coffee and Sports in the Morning. I'm your host today, Mr. William Morgan. Chris will be back tomorrow. I guess he got sidetracked by some New England Patriots cheerleaders or something. I don't know, but regardless, I'm here. We'll say thank you for everybody watching on YouTube and Facebook, and also those watching on Roku TV via the Northeast Streaming Sports Production. So I want to say thank you for all of you being here with us today. Let me bring in my partner in crime and my brother from another mother. Mo, what's up, man?
Hey, good morning, Will. Good morning. You know what? There was a few moves made in the NFL at the trade deadline, but there's even bigger news to talk about this morning.
Oh yeah, and it all happened while we were asleep. I woke up to it and it was like, oh man. For those who don't know, for the uninitiated, Raiders fired their head coach and GM. Josh McDaniels, he's blown up every team he's been to, trying to bring in New England Patriots 2.0. The GM seems to be highly regarded, so he should find another job very quickly. But I think this might be the end of Josh McDaniels, Mo.
You know what? I'm going to say it's the end for now, but Josh McDaniels will be back. Somebody will view him as this is wrong place, wrong time, part 2. He'll get another opportunity. Guys like Josh McDaniels always do, but this firing, long overdue.
Oh, yeah, long overdue. Shit happened months ago. Now, elephant in the room. And it seems to me the reason why this happened was because your star receiver, Devontae Adams, you know how they say closed mouth don't get fed? Well, I think in this case, he opened his mouth, said something, and they finally paid attention. And if his last game didn't show you that your decision to bring in Jimmy G and get rid of Derek Carr wasn't it, it was definitely what Devontae Adams had to say.
And look, no one here has clean hands, right? Mark Davis, the owner, he's made some bad decisions on his account. Let's be fair. But again, he's the owner. So ultimately, he can clean up the act. He can get them out of there, bring in a completely new regime. The Raiders are clearly a team that's in a full out-and-out rebuild mode. Mm-hmm. They're in need of a quarterback, along with some other core pieces on both sides of the football. The only guy that you can look at and go, that's a guy that we can rely on. That's a guy that can make plays. That's a guy that's special, is Devontae Adams.
Yep. I agree. And we will have on Gene from Wild to Wild Sports coming to the show a little bit later to help us break this down, as well as all these moves from the trade deadline. But now it looks to be Jimmy G is getting benched, and you paid him all this money. And, my question is, how does he keep fooling people?
To be fair, I've never been the biggest Garoppolo guy, but I've seen him over the breadth of his career, especially with the Niners. He's a solid quarterback. He's not a special quarterback. He's not an elite quarterback. I don't know when the term game manager began, but Jimmy G, at his very best, is a very good game manager. He's the kind of guy that he's very effective in intermediate routes. He's known for the best version of him is known for not turning the football over.
Right.
He's not going to go out and win you a shootout. What he's known for when he's at his best is he doesn't lose you football games. So I don't want to kill Jimmy Garoppolo. Just like we know Josh McDaniels will be back in a league that is quarterback driven and guys tend to get injured from time to time. Jimmy Garoppolo will still have value. He will land on his feet. But clearly, even when the Raiders signed him, you knew he wasn't their future. He wasn't part of their future. He was going to be a bridge quarterback at best. And I would say that they'll probably bring him back. I just don't know if they're going to bring him back as a starter. Not if they can go out and draft their future quarterback.
Let me ask you a question. Do you see this as the Raiders might start to tank?
You know what? The truth is, I was surprised with them having won 3 games. They actually impressed me.
They were fighting.
Right. But I would look at them going forward a lot like the Arizona Cardinals. I don't think they have to tank. I just don't think they're that good a football team. I think they will naturally not be very good. I think they've been competitive. They've won a couple of games that I didn't think they would have won. But I think they're going to be in a position to get a high draft pick. And I would say priority number 1, go get a franchise quarterback, or at least draft someone who you think can be a franchise quarterback.
Like I say, that the whole thing, was just topsy-turvy. I thought, in my opinion, I thought they were going to give at least Josh McDaniels to the end of the season before they hand him, but they decided to go ahead and do it now. So, and it makes sense. It makes sense. You're at a crucial period right now. You really can't do much in the trade deadline because you can't trade a star receiver in the middle of the season with a new offense that player will have to learn. You really be doing him a disservice. So you couldn't, and plus that number that Devontae has is just huge. I don't know what team would come off of that right now unless there was a restructure or something like that took place.
I agree. And look, also, maybe they do believe that Devontae Adams can be part of their future going forward. Now, to be clear, I still think he's one of the top wide receivers in all of football.
Yes.
But he's not 24 or 25. I think he's teetering towards 30, or he's right at 30. So I still think he can play at a high level. I guess with Mark Davis and the new GM has to discuss, do they think Devontae is going to be part of this going forward? And like you said, he's got a big number. And when you've got a big number, I don't know if somebody's going to come off of that. But what we know about today's NFL, his position is valued.
Covered.
Highly
it's
valued.
Coveted, yes.
Right. It's not like the running back position that we've talked about ad nauseum. An elite wide receiver, if you pair him, especially if you can pair him with an elite quarterback. If you can do something like that, that changes everything. His impact can be profound if he goes to the right team, should they decide to move off of him.
Give me 1 second.
Not a problem. Yeah, you know what? Maybe that's become the trend now. The James Harden that trade that took place early in the morning, like an overnight kind of thing on the low, and then you turn around and you wake up, and Mark Davis decided to call everybody at midnight and say you fired.
All right, let me go ahead and bring in our NFL gene. Get it, genius. My man Gene from Wire to Wire Sports. Gene, how you doing, man?
I'm phenomenal, man. It is a great morning. It's there's birds chirping, butterflies are out, and Josh McDaniels is out of a job.
Yes. Let me get some feedback from you on that.
Yeah, so 14-32. You know what that is? That's Josh McDaniels' record after he got caught cheating when he was 6-0 with the Denver Broncos.
Wow.
And no, I'm just wondering, do you remember what team that was against that caught him cheating?
The Niners.
The San Francisco 49ers.
Damn.
They were 6-0, and Josh got caught cheating. Same Patriot play situation that he was in New England. And since then, he's 14-32 as an NFL head coach. William, I have the strongest feelings on the Raiders. I actively root for them to lose.
Yes.
Not because I don't like the franchise or the fan base. What they did to Rich Bisaccia, after making the playoffs and being in the red zone versus the Cincinnati Bengals the year they went to the Super Bowl, to hire Josh McDaniels and bring him in, embarrassing.
I agree.
That
was disrespectful. That was disrespectful.
Situation, William, the Henry Ruggs situation, the John Gruden situation. Rich Bisaccia took all that, took that team to the playoffs. That team was playing hard. That team was playing great football, and they fired him and brought in Josh McDaniels. That franchise deserves everything it gets.
Yeah, they do.
This is exactly what I wanted to see happen this morning.
Blow that thing up. Hopefully we can get some better play from some key guys. Josh Jacobs is still doing his thing over there, premier running back. I'm kind of surprised they stuck with Renfro for as long as they have, but he's a good receiver, so I hope he can get some more run. And just overall, get a defense over in Raider land. Come on, y'all.
William, they have the most underrated defensive player in all football. Max Crosby.
Mm-hmm. Crosby.
Just watching him in that Lions game, the Lions dominated that football game. But any play that the Raiders made defensively was centered around Max Crosby. Even the pick six that Marcus Peters had was due to pressure from Max Crosby. I think they have pieces. I think a good NFL head coach can go in there and turn that team around ASAP.
You like that secondary?
The secondary is not great. I like Trevon Moehrig. But outside of Trevon, I'm not a big fan of the secondary, but the pass rush makes up for the secondary.
Yeah.
They have a running back. They have 3 solid receivers. They have a decent offensive line. They have a quarterback that can be a game manager. I don't think that the team was the problem. I think that the issue was Josh McDaniels.
Do you lead any issues for as far as what you have now on the GM?
Well, yeah, he was let go also.
Yeah.
But see, they fired him because of Josh McDaniels. It was that decision, right? When they let go Mike Mayock and Rich Bisaccia, they went in a different direction. And so when they fired Josh, Dave Ziegler had to go with him.
Yeah.
That was Dave's decision. I don't think they've drafted terribly. I just think as a whole, when you're married to a terrible decision, like the guy who drafted Jamarcus Russell was fired for drafting Jamarcus Russell.
Yes.
He could have been the best drafter ever, but he drafted Jamarcus Russell. So like, you have to understand that when you're married to a terrible decision, like letting Rich Bisaccia go, you're going to have to go down with the ship.
Well, let's see what they can do. They're 3-5 right now, so let's see if they can right the ship. They're fighting, so that's one thing that you got to give the Raiders, that they are fighting to try to stay competitive. So we'll see if they can do so. All right, while we have you here, Gene, I want to go ahead and get into some of these trade deadline deals that we got going on. What was some of the best? What was some of the least? And also, what team do you think should have stepped up and made a trade that didn't?
All right, well, I'll start with what the best was. I'll tell you what scared me. You add Chase Young to a defense that has Nick Bosa on the other side, that has Javon Hargrave, Eric Armstead, Fred Warner. That front seven is scary. And like, I don't think any team in the NFL is going to have to see Chase Young play against their quarterback 3 times except the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yep.
We hate seeing him. That guy is an absolute menace. Chase Young going to San Francisco almost felt unfair. Now, I'm not saying it's unfair coming from an Eagles perspective, because we do a lot of those moves ourselves.
Right.
Yep.
But that move was a shout out to John Lynch, Kyle Shanahan for being able to pull the trigger, and they got him for a 3rd round pick. Did you not think that was embarrassing how Montez Sweat went for probably pick 34, 35, early 2nd, and Chase Young went for probably pick 78, late 3rd, where the 49ers will be? It felt like John Lynch was playing chess.
Everybody else playing checkers.
Washington.
Gene, that was a Howie Roseman move, right? That was kind of a Howie. I mean, Howie's the man, and everybody will concede Howie's the man, but that was kind of like a Howie move.
Great move. John Lynch has done a great job over there.
I do like the Sweat trade, because the reason why I like that trade, because I think it gives Montez a new environment. I think it gives him something new. He can go over to Chicago, reinvent himself somewhat, and probably be the best defensive player that they have. So I do like that move for Sweat. Chase, man, to me, it's just a issue of Chase staying healthy.
I mean, he really has only had one significant injury, and it was just coming back from that injury. But if you want to touch on the Montez Sweat move, He went from one awful organization to another awful organization.
Mm-hmm.
Chicago Bears aren't a good organization. I hate
No.
that trade for Montez Sweat. And I think the reason that they traded into Chicago is because Chicago has the money to overpay him in the offseason.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, like, I get that. And I understand Chicago is trying to build, but they're going to screw that thing up again. They don't have an offensive-minded head coach. They don't have an offensive coordinator to help build the offense around Justin Fields. They're going to go out and draft a quarterback this offseason and recycle the process from Mitch Trubisky to Justin Fields to now Caleb Williams, Drake May, who knows? But Chicago is a terrible organization. That family needs to sell the team, if I'm being completely honest with you. But you want to talk about teams that didn't make moves, William?
Yeah.
2 teams that didn't make moves. They both listen. I couldn't pick one. They're both in the NFC. The Philadelphia Eagles bringing Kevin Byard. The San Francisco 49ers bringing Chase Young. The Seattle Seahawks bringing Leonard Williams.
Yes.
And the Dallas Cowboys and the Detroit Lions basically sat on their hands. I know the Lions brought in Donovan Peoples-Jones, but that's not what they needed.
Mm-mm.
They have Amon-Ra St. Brown. They have Josh Reynolds. They have Jamison Williams, who they invested a first-round draft pick in. They needed a rusher of the passer opposite of Aiden Hutchinson bad. And they just let that go out the window. I think that Dallas and Detroit, 2 teams that could easily be competing for an NFC championship game, sat on their hands while the NFC's elite got stronger. Kevin Byard, all-pro safety. Chase Young, future all-pro defensive end. Dallas and Detroit should be ashamed of themselves.
What do you think, Mo? Who do you think teams that should have made trades that didn't?
I thought first team that came to mind was the Dallas Cowboys. I just knew they would make a move to try to at least bring them closer to the Eagles and the Niners. And I know the Niners are struggling, but I don't think Dallas matches up well with either one of those teams. When you look at both teams on both sides of the football, they just don't. And I thought they needed a difference maker at the trade deadline. And like Gene said, they just sat on their hands, content with the roster that they have. That will cost them once again in the playoffs.
I thought the Falcons should have made a move.
I don't. I think the Falcons should be.
You think they're fine the way they are?
I think they should be tanking. I think that they're starting to realize that Desmond Ridder is not the answer. I could have told you that after watching the Cincinnati-Alabama game in the college football playoff. The guy has happy feet. He's scared of the pass rush. And that you can't have that in the NFL, right? You have to be fearless at that quarterback position. I think that teams that made moves that should have or made moves that shouldn't. I think an underrated move is Joshua Dobbs to the Minnesota Vikings. I looked at that move like, that's really interesting, right? You lose Kirk Cousins. Justin Jefferson's out. Kirk probably won't be back there next year after having Achilles injury. So you bring Joshua Dobbs in to keep that team afloat. They're 4-4, and you're bringing a quarterback in that can keep them in the playoff hunt and keep their team bought in. If you've watched Minnesota, I got to give so much credit to Brian Flores and what he's done on that defensive side of the ball. It is incredible. He is literally making a 5-star meal with like scraps from the oven that are leftovers. What he's done with that Minnesota defense to kind of get them reinvigorated and turned around. Just watch the Green Bay game this week. If you didn't watch any game this week, watch that Minnesota Green Bay game, what he did to Jordan Love, the way he confused him. Brian Flores is doing a hell of a job. And to be able to get a quarterback to come in who's played, by the way, reinvigorated his career. Josh Dobbs with the Arizona Cardinals.
Playing great with them.
Been great
with them, right? You bring him over because K1's now back with Arizona. I think that's a super underrated move that keeps the Minnesota Vikings team bought in.
I said Atlanta because I was sort of kind of hoping they'll get another corner opposite AJ Terrell.
Then they have Jeffrey Okudah.
Yeah. I don't know.
Former number 3 overall pick, Jeffrey Okuda.
Yeah, but I don't know, man.
What about a disappointment, man? He has been super disappointing.
Yeah.
Are you an Atlanta fan? Are you a
I'm
Falcons?
not an Atlanta fan. I'm a Saints fan, but I watch that NFC South a lot, living here in Georgia. By the way, y'all, it's tough being a Saints fan here in Georgia. I wear my Saints hat sometimes, and I just get blasted for it. I get blasted for it on the street. I get blasted for it at work. But regardless, I watch the NFC a lot, and I like AJ Terrell a lot. He's a good corner. They need somebody on the opposite side of him.
See, I don't think their defense is the problem in Atlanta. I love what Jesse Bates has brought to that team. He has been an incredible signing for Atlanta. I don't think their defense is even close to being the issue in Atlanta. That offense is so backwards. That
It is.
Arthur Smith is doing a terrible job down there in Atlanta. You have Kyle Pitts, the highest drafted tight end in the history of football.
You don't hit it.
And
you hit it.
There's a play, and I really wish you guys could watch. I don't know if you guys seen it, but there was a play where they had a tight end pass. So their third string tight end was throwing to their second string tight end, while their first string tight end, the number 4 overall pick, was blocking. If that was not a culmination of what the Atlanta Falcons are doing, I don't know what is.
Don't get that, man.
Bijan Robinson 7th, and Tyler Algier outsnapped them half the games this year.
Yeah.
It's embarrassing what Atlanta is doing on the offensive side of the ball. They put all their support into Desmond Ridder, and Taylor Heineke looked like Joe Montana as soon as they removed Desmond Ridder from the game. He almost came back from down, I think it was 28-9 versus the Titans.
Almost brought him back.
He looked great. Looked great in that game. I think
a couple of buddies of mine. A couple of buddies of mine are always saying that, you have a guy there. All you got to do is put him in. But then it's Arthur Smith, because then he's got to chew. He's got to swallow his ego and said, hey, admit he made a mistake. And I'm glad he finally did it, because Heineke has shown he can play.
Yeah. I mean, he's definitely better than Desmond Ridder. And you kind of want to see what you have in guys like Drake London and Kyle Pitts, because people are pretending that those guys are busts, when in reality, they just don't have a quarterback that can throw them the football. 100%. The yards of separation that Kyle Pitts is getting on plays is insane. I
agree. All right, guys, let's go ahead and move on up to some of our marquee matchups in week number 9. Mo, I'm going to start with you. Miami and Kansas City, what are your thoughts on that?
I'm going to still go with the Kansas City Chiefs. I believe in Patrick Mahomes 100% of the time. I do. I think he can just pull something out of a rabbit out of the hat whenever, no matter the situation. But I do think that the Dolphins offense, I trust the Dolphins offense more than I trust the Chiefs defense. And the Chiefs defense has actually been solid for most of the season. But I trust the Dolphins offense more. And, everybody's making a big deal about the weapons that Patrick Mahomes doesn't have. I would say still pay attention to the weapon that he does have. It's gonna be a good football game, but I think the Dolphins are going to be able to put up more points.
What do you think, Gene?
I think that I agree with Mo. I think the Chiefs won the football game. The Chiefs coming off that emotional letdown game in Denver. I almost thought they were looking ahead to this Germany-Frankfurt series. I think it's a great way to wake up and watch some 9:30 a.m. football in Germany. Awesome. Can't wait to watch that. Great football game. The Dolphins have shown to be a great team beating up bad teams, right? I think their combined wins of all their teams that they have wins against is 7. So I want to see the Miami Dolphins beat a good football team. It's also the Tyreek Hill, Patrick Mahomes revenge game with them.
Oh, right.
I can't wait to watch that. I think the storylines write themselves. I think Mahomes will be ready. I think the offenses will be – this is a perfect shootout, right? I think the over-under is like 51 in that game. Take the over.
Take the over in that.
I think it's going to be 38-31. I think it'll be a very good football game, but I'll lean to the Kansas City Chiefs. I do think Miami's a very good football team. I just want to see them beat a good football team. And the Kansas City Chiefs are one of the best.
Okay. They kind of, right now, the Dolphins kind of remind me of, Cowboys South in terms of them just beating up on bad teams and not getting a quality win against a good team. So they get another crack at it this week. Gene, I'm going to stay with you. Buffalo and Cincinnati, what are your thoughts?
I love Cincinnati, man.
I do too.
Joe Burrow looks completely locked in. People were talking about him regressing when he had the calf injury. He's not regressing. He got through that calf injury. He threw a ball to Jamar Chase versus the Arizona Cardinals a few weeks back. That was one of the prettiest deep balls I've ever seen in my entire life. He threw it 60 yards airtime on a dime, and literally you couldn't have handed it to him in a better spot. Watching him dissect, in my opinion, the best defense in the NFL last week in the San Francisco 49ers was special, right?
Mm-hmm.
He played great in that football game versus San Francisco. I think the Bengals are rolling. I think the Bengals have the Buffalo Bills number. I think the Buffalo Bills might be the most overrated team in football right now. I think people are overvaluing them because they beat up on a couple good teams, and they're forgetting that they've lost. In my opinion, if you wanted to stack rank the Buffalo Bills players in order of importance, obviously Josh Allen's one. People have Diggs too. I don't. Matt Milano and Tre'Davious White were two of the best players on Buffalo, and they're out for the season. I don't think they've looked the same since then. Their defense doesn't look very threatening. They have two good rushers. Well, three good rushers when you count Ed Oliver.
Didn't they sign Leonard Fournette to the practice squad too?
It doesn't matter. Leonard Fournette's best days are behind him. They did sign him to the practice squad. I don't think that matters. James Cook, Leonard Fournette, it doesn't matter. I think
the same guy.
I think the Cincinnati Bengals are the better football team, and I think you'll see Joe Burrow dissect that defense like he did last year in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
That was an absolute blowout in Buffalo, and this is the one thing I will be watching for in this game is the Damar Hamlin effect. This is the Damar Hamlin game.
Yes.
Essentially,
yes.
I can't wait to see. I hope they suit him up. I hope he's there. I think he can give an emotional lift to that Buffalo Bills team. But I still like Cincinnati in the football game.
For some reason, I'm seeing this as a bit T. Higgins game. I don't know why I say it, but I just think he's ready. He hasn't really done anything so far this season. And I know he was hurt before. But I really think this is going to be a big T. Higgins game. Chase is going to do his thing. But I really think this is going to be a big T. Higgins game.
T. Higgins has been hurt. He's been nursing a rib injury. So I don't, I could see that. When you have Jamar Chase, I think Jamar Chase is the guy that's going to get the football all the time. He's like A.J. Brown. He's like Tyreek Hill. He's like a lot of those big-name wide receivers. Just throw him the football.
I'm with Jamar Chase.
He'll get it. He'll get it.
Like he said, he's always open. I agree. Jamar Chase, his ability to get in and out of breaks, he's a monster.
Mo, what do you see out of this game from Buffalo and Cincinnati?
So I think Gene just about covered it. When Joe Burrow's healthy, you got problems. There's only one other quarterback that I would take besides Patrick Mahomes. It is Joe Burrow.
Mm-hmm.
And my greatest fear was in a win that we needed was that the Cincinnati Bengals would come out and they would spread us out. And they spread us out, and he just picked the Niners apart. He really did. And he had them on their heels from drive one, and he's just a special player. So when I look at the matchup versus the Bills, I don't doubt what the Bills can do on their side of the football, but I think that the Bengals are right. And once they're right, once QB1 is right, I think the Bengals, they're on a roll right now. I expect the Bengals to win this football game.
And when I saw Joe Burrow rushing the football the other day, oh yeah, I said he's back. He's back. Let's move on to our next game. Seattle versus the Baltimore Ravens. Mo, I'm gonna stick with you. What do you think?
That's a good matchup.
Yeah, it is.
Most people would say the Ravens, but I really like Seattle. I really like Seattle. I think this is going to be a really good game. I don't think it's going to be high scoring, but I think if you got good Geno, right? There's good Geno, bad Geno, but the way he's been playing, the way that defense has looked, and the playmakers he has on the outside, and the moves that they just made, I actually think the biggest fear the Niners have is on their rear is Seattle. Seattle is the team that can actually catch them and win that division. I think Seattle wins this football game. I think they rattle Lamar Jackson a little bit. I think Lamar turns the ball over a couple of times. I think the Seahawks win.
What do you think, Gene?
It's incredible that you said that because I thought I was going to be on an island when I said this. I love Seattle in this football game. Their defense is exactly what you need to be able to rattle Lamar Jackson. Let me explain what I mean. When you have 3 cover corners in Reek Woolen and Devin Witherspoon, and you have Jamal Adams coming in the box, Quadre Diggs, you have the team. Jamal Adams matches up perfectly with a guy like Mark Andrews, right? And their cornerbacks, they don't need help versus Odell Beckham Jr., Zay Flowers. They don't need any help. So what that allows Seattle to do is completely condense the box and make Lamar Jackson beat you over the top or outside the hash marks. And I don't think that happens. They say styles make fights. I think Baltimore is a better football team than Seattle. I think Seattle matches up perfectly with this Baltimore Ravens team. And I think they go on the road and they get a win. As long as, this is the one thing you got to look out for, as long as Geno Smith does not turn the football over
100%.
to that Ravens defense, Seattle should win this football game. They have a thunder and lightning combination at the running back position with Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet. They have receivers that can exploit the edges. Jackson Smith and Jigba's coming into his own in that slot. You got Lockett, you got Metcalf. I like Seattle in this one. It's one of my upset specials.
From a fantasy football standpoint, I'm not starting Mark Andrews this week. I just don't like that matchup at all. I'm sitting him this week, but I agree with you guys. I do like Seattle in this football game. As long as we get good Geno, I like Seattle in this football game. All right, last marquee matchup for the week number 9, the Dallas Cowboys versus the Philadelphia Eagles. Gene, what you thinking?
It's funny. This is the last matchup, and I hate Dallas week, right? Eagles fans love Dallas week. I hate Dallas week, right? And I'm gonna tell you why I hate Dallas week, because a lot of Eagles fans don't want to admit this, but the Dallas we're just talking about styles make fights, right? The Dallas Cowboys style is the exact opposite of what Philadelphia wants, right? Defensively, I don't think it's that much of an issue the way we match up with their offense, but their defense, the way they play football with Micah Parsons and DeMarcus Lawrence, controlling and keeping Jalen Hurts in the pocket around the edges, them adding interior defenders at the defensive tackle position makes it tough for Philadelphia to run the football. And they have a cornerback room that can keep up with the Philadelphia Eagles wide receivers. I think this is extremely low-scoring football game. Mark my words, this game will look ugly. We'll be asking what's wrong with Jalen Hurts. The offense will look bad. It's the week before the Eagles go into the bye. Do not be surprised if Dallas comes into Philadelphia and wins this football game. It's an ugly football game. These teams match up very well as far as each side of the ball. What I'm looking for is that defense to create a spark. I need that Sean Desai defense to create a spark and turn Dak Prescott over. That's how you win this football game. That Philadelphia Eagles offense that looks unstoppable, scored 38 points versus Washington, I promise you they will have problems this week. Dan Quinn gives the Philadelphia Eagles a ton of issues. Dak Prescott's record versus the Eagles is very well noted. It's like 17-3 in his career. It's one of those things that you just need to know as an Eagles fan. The Cowboys week is a tough week for us to play. I like Dallas to cover in this one. I like Dallas to win. I'm going to take the Cowboys.
That's the one thing that I think Philly needs to make sure they don't do is to give Dallas short fields. Dallas takes advantage more of short field like no other team I've ever seen in the NFL. If they're going to take it, any team to take advantage of a short field, it's definitely Dallas. Mo, what do you think?
I think Gene is spot on that it's going to be a low-scoring game. I do agree with that. But I think that it'll be about situational football as well. And while he's the younger guy, I trust Jalen Hurts more in situational football than I do in Dak Prescott. I think the Eagles defense will get Dak Prescott to turn the football over. That will be the difference in the football game. That's my belief. I think ultimately the Eagles defense will make enough plays that they win the football game.
What tight end you guys like better in this football game?
Dallas Goedert. You're talking about Dallas Goedert, Jake Ferguson? I like Jake Ferguson a lot. I'll tell you right now, I don't think Jake Ferguson's the tight end of the future for Dallas. They have
really?
Luke Schoonmaker, a guy they drafted in the second round. That kid's a stud. You wait until he starts playing football because I think he's better than Jake Ferguson.
Wow. But this should be a very entertaining game. I think Philly can pull this one out. It's going to be tough, but I think Philly can pull it out. They got to make sure no scooping scores, keep them out of short fields. I think Philly can win this football game. All right, Gene, before we let you get on out of here, I want to say thank you for coming on the show. Where can people find you? Where can people check you out?
Well, I appreciate it. You can find me on Sports Empire Network. I do the Cheap Seats podcast with Kyle on Monday. Wire to Wire tonight. Wire to Wire Sports Podcast tonight, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can see us tomorrow morning on Roku at 10 a.m. And then tomorrow night, we do Sideline to Sideline, all football show. So if football is your fix, we're here for you. I appreciate y'all having me on. It's always good talking sports.
Appreciate you coming on, Gene.
Appreciate you coming on, man. Thank you. Y'all have a good day.
Take care.
All right, man. And as we let Gene go ahead and roll back home, we're going to take a short break. When we come back from break, we'll be talking about some NBA action, some NBA fines, and a team losing their star player for the foreseeable future. Hang out with us. We'll be right back on Coffee and Sports in the Morning.
What's up, everybody? It's Control Simpson with Wire to Wire Sports Podcast, where we're going to cover all things breaking news, sports related. We're going to preview games, and we're also going to give you our reaction to games that have happened before. You can catch us on Wednesdays from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. And if you miss us there, no worries. You can also catch us on Roku with Northeast Streaming Sports Productions from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m.
Hey, and listen, if you're not into all sports and just NFL, we have Sideline to Sideline. That's on Thursday nights from 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to 8 p.m. We'll break down the NFL week, the Thursday night game, and we'll preview all NFL action.
And if you're like me and college football is your fix, tune in every Saturday morning at 10 a.m. for Coast to Coast College Football pregame show. We'll review the previous week's action, the day's biggest games. We'll give you our pick'ems, and we'll even give you some teams that are on upset alert.
And if you don't catch us live, you can download us on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, or wherever you listen to your podcast. We do also have a YouTube station, Wire to Wire Sports Podcast. Thanks for tuning in.
All right. Welcome back to Coffee and Sports in the Morning. The host, William D. Morgan. Chris will be back with us tomorrow. Got my man Mo here. And Mo, let's go on to our next topic. Joel Embiid has been fined $35,000 for his WBDX suck it crotch chop during the Portland game. What's your opinion on that?
Look, you know what? As a fan, he was in the moment. Look, I know they have to fine him. So to me, it's not a thing. It's the league had to go ahead and say, hey, you can't do that. I get it. I don't think it's a big issue. I think Embiid will move on from it. This is like a story that's a non-story, right? You're going to you're going to get fined if you do something of that nature. If you make some kind of gesture, the powers that be are going to come down on you. He'll be fine. Look, he's got more important issues on his mind. He should be celebrating the fact that the team got a little bit lighter, got a little bit better with the recent trade.
Yes. And we're going to get into this trade in just a little bit.
Sure.
But I really think, come on, Joel, man. You got to be better than this, man. You just got to be better than this. You got to, I just see as a professional athlete, at some point you have to set the example. And I just think this was sort of kind of immature and childish. I get frustration if things aren't going your way. I understand that. But at some point, you have to be more mature in what you do on the court. And I just think this is just $35,000 just wasted over doing something that's so immature. It's just crazy, in my opinion.
It's an immature moment, but I think he'll be better. He'll do better.
I think he will. I think he will. I hope so, because like I say, now you could pretty much say with James Harden being out of there, he's the face of that team. If he wasn't before, he definitely is now. And you have to set that example, not only for yourself, but for your teammates as well. All right, let's go ahead and move into our next NBA topic, as we are. Well,
you good, Will?
Yeah. Bring our next topic up as we're waiting for our guest. My boy Brett's gonna be with us to talk about this in just one more. But there he is. What's up, Brett?
Hey, how's it going, everyone?
How you doing, man? Welcome.
Morning, Brett. Morning.
Say morning. I'm doing good.
Welcome, man. Wanting to go ahead and talk to you about a few things, and Mo can jump in as well. DeAndre Fox looks to be out for the foreseeable future with that ankle injury. What do you guys think this does for the Kings?
Mine is big. Since he's their best player, somebody's going to have to step up. So they're going to have to get
Next
more
man up.
offense from Sabonis. They're going to have to get more offense from Keegan Murray, more offense from Harrison Barnes. Don't forget that you do have talent coming off the bench, and Malik Monk, who can potentially give you 20 to 25 a night while he's out. Nobody has to tell Malik Monk to shoot. So
No.
He's not going to have a problem with the extra opportunities. So I think that the Kings would do well if they could go 500 while
Yes.
De'Aaron Fox is out. That would be doing well. But they will struggle in late game situations because he's their closer.
Go ahead, Brett.
Say not only late game situations, but this really kills them because they don't have a guy to replicate the amount of pressure that De'Aaron Fox puts at the rim.
True.
They don't have a guy to collapse the defense like he does.
True. Very true.
Like, now what are you going to do to get some interior pressure? Are you going to try to go to, like, maybe some more Sabonis post-ups? That doesn't sound ideal. So I think I agree with Mo on the part that if they go 500, I think that'll be really good for them. And I think they're just going to struggle now. They don't really have a closer, and they don't really have a guy that can put pressure on the rim, and it's going to make their offense painfully one-dimensional almost.
It's definitely going to be...
To be fair, how many guys in the league can replicate De'Aaron Fox's quickness? You know what I mean? It's not just that he's a loss for the Kings. There's nobody in the NBA that has that kind of quickness. His ability to change directions and stop and start, like, he's just a unique talent. So it is a great loss. But I think, look, they have enough talent, I think, to hold the fort down. They do. Sabonis isn't really great in post-ups unless he has mismatches with smaller players.
Right.
He's actually a better finisher in pick and roll when he's on the move. When Sabonis is on the move, he's a tremendous finisher. But he's not really the kind of big you just throw the ball into and say go to work. It's not his strength.
He doesn't have a back to the basket game.
Not really, no.
Not at all. All right, let's move on to our next topic. And Brett, I'll start with you. Where did the Clippers' big three of Harden, Kawhi, and George rank amongst the other big threes in the league today?
I mean, I think in terms of just if we're looking at, because right now all we can do is like kind of look at the talent as it looks on paper because we haven't seen them play together yet. I think they're right up there. I think you can make an argument that they're top. You can make an argument that they're top three just based off the name and the talents alone. I think number one right now, I think it's easily Jokic, Jamal Murray, and Aaron Gordon. The way they just fit together and they just came in this season, they've just been destroying people. After that, that's where it gets tough. Like, do you want to rank KD, Devin Booker, and Bradley Beal? Because that's a very good trio on paper. They just haven't been healthy and played together yet. So with this team, I have no problem if you want to rank them as your like number 2 or 3 because that's just how talented all three guys are on paper. And that's honestly where I'd probably put them because that's just a phenomenal trio in all reality, and they should blend together very well.
What do you think, Mo?
I think that if we can take them and we rank them on what they would be on NBA 2K24, then the Clippers would be in the top 3 because they'll be their healthiest in a video game. But in actual real life, with their histories, what we know about Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. Kawhi Leonard's got chronic knee issues, and then you've got Paul George, shoulder problems all the time. James Harden is kind of brittle himself as he's gotten older. I will say this, as an NBA fan, I want everybody to be healthy. Yes. I want everybody to be healthy and stay healthy. I root for that. I would like to see the Clippers in the playoffs fully healthy. Same for the Sixers, same for the Bucks. I don't want anybody to be injured, but I have to look at the history and judge them on that. And look, on paper, it looks like a big 3. What I would question is when you've got 2 scoring wings and a point guard who's not really a pure point guard. He's a ball dominant player who's known for dribbling the air out the ball. I don't know how that works. It sounds good, but when James Harden brings the ball up and he's dribbling the air out of the shot clock, are Kawhi and Paul George supposed to just do what everybody else does and just wait for him to get done dribbling to make a decision? I think there's going to be some learning curves with that trio on the floor, because remember, Kawhi and Paul George, they like the ISO too. They like the ISO at times as well. I'm not sure how that's going to work. I think James Harden will have more success when one of them is off the floor. Then he can operate better. I think when all three of them on the floor, he's going to have to give up the ball more. He's going to have to defer more. And I'm not sure he's great at deferring.
Another thing that sort of kind of surprised me is the move too, that you kept Powell. So I sort of kind of thought that was kind of surprising that they were able to keep him.
That's great.
That's great for them. I thought that was kind of interesting that you was able to keep Powell. What does this do? And Brad, I'm gonna come back to you for a quick second. What does this do for Russell Westbrook?
See, this one, Russ to me is an interesting one, right? Because he's been busting on defense. He's been doing very good. And he's been shooting really well to start the year to make it seem like he can fit with these guys. But in all reality, it really feels like even if you start him, Russ should probably be the first guy you pull so you can run him with mainly bench units. And if he's feeling it, then keep him in to close out games. Otherwise, you can run like Norman Powell at the 2. So I don't think this does that like much for Russ. Like, it takes him off the ball more, but I think the easiest way to counter that is you're just pulling him from games earlier and then bringing him back in with the second unit. So
right.
I think there will be adjustments for Russ and there will be growing pains, but I don't think it'll be too hard to really make sure to keep him in a position where he can stay on the ball more.
All right. Brad, I want to thank you for coming on the show, man. Thank you for taking the time to join us this morning. We do appreciate it.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Thank you,
Appreciate
man.
it, Brad.
All right, and as we take our final break of the show, again, I want to say thank you to Brett for joining us this morning. We're going to go into our final segment. Yeah, we're going to be talking about Deion Sanders. So hang out with us for our last segment. We'll be right back on Coffee Sports in the Morning.
Hey guys, it's Pavel the Cat.
And Evan Rev Reynolds.
And we are Two Guys in Hockey Talk. We are here every Wednesday night at 7 p.m. Mountain Standard Time to talk all things hockey. What are we talking about, Evan?
We talk KHL, AHL, ECHL, every HL hockey league you can think about, prospects, juniors, even the Professional Women's Hockey League.
Yeah, we love it. And we have a website, Two Guys in Hockey Talk. So give us a follow. We got articles on all things related to hockey, and we're writing all throughout the season. So make sure you tune in. We're also on X or Twitter. You can find me at hockey_2, and
you can follow me at RevanEv. Or you can also go to twoguyesandhockeytalk.com to follow everything.
We love hearing from you guys, so make sure you tune in, comment, like, give us a follow on our Facebook and YouTube page. We love hearing from you guys, and it's a blast talking all things hockey, right, Evan?
Hey, man, it is. So, as we say every show, in the meantime and in between time,
keep your sticks on the ice. Cheers.
Cheers.
All right, everybody. Welcome back. Yeah, those guys are awesome.
You gotta love the hockey guys. Come on, man.
Yes. All right, we are back. Final segment for Coffee Sports in the Morning. I want to say thank you for everybody for joining us. Last segment. Deion Sanders calls on the NCAA and the Rose Bowl to repay his players who had their belongings stolen last week from the visitors' locker room while they were playing a game against the UCLA Bruins. Sanders says it's a travesty to what happened to his players, and someone needs to do right by them. What are your reactions, Mo?
I agree with Prime 100%. Somebody needs to compensate the Colorado Buffaloes football team for that and their players for their belongings that were stolen. I think what he's asking is not unreasonable. That does not mean that obviously the NCAA has to turn around and go, here's a check. How much do you think you lost? Or something of that nature. But I have no problem with Prime feeling that way. I have no problem with him saying that. Do I think that they're going to turn around and compensate his players for their loss? I do not. That's not the NCAA that I know. So, look, I understand him speaking up, saying what he's got to say. He's never at a loss for words. They're not going to give them a check. That's not going to happen.
I agree with 3 people on this. 3 people. Key Williams, I agree with you. Chat Ojocinco, Shannon Sharp, I agree with you. This is an inside job. Because if you've ever been, first of all, you got to be credentialed to even get to the locker room. That's the first thing. That's the thing that's killing me. It's a task and a half to get back to an NFL or college locker room. You got to be credentialed to do so. So this tells me, with that alone, this tells me this was an inside job. That exactly tells me it's an inside job.
I don't doubt it for a minute. Now, is anybody going to come forward and go, "Okay, we did it"?
No, they ain't gonna do
it. Right. This will go down as one of the great mysteries. Right. No one's coming forward, but I'm with Key. Somebody on the inside, somebody connected to their opponent, went down. Like I do believe that's exactly what happened. There's no proof of that, so let's just say allegedly that could have been what happened. I don't blame Prime, University of Colorado, for being upset. It's wrong, it's disrespectful, and it's highly unnecessary to go that far. I really think what's going on is because of the attention that the Colorado Buffaloes have received, bigger schools, lesser known schools, everybody's coming from them, right? You know what I mean? Like they're not the number 1 ranked school in college football, but
right.
people very much, when you play them, don't they approach them like that? Like everybody's coming for the Colorado Buffaloes, and I think Prime's here for that. He totally understands that, and I'll stick by what I said before. I think when it's all said and done, I think the Colorado Buffaloes, they will make a bowl, and I think that's a great first season.
Yes,
with what Prime has done with them. That was my expectations all along. And I think they're going to achieve that.
All right. Before we turn it over to you, Mo, to close out the show, I want to say thank you for everybody checking us out this morning. Everybody checking us on Roku. Everybody checking us out on YouTube, Facebook. I want to say thank you for everybody joining us. Now I'm going to turn things over to Mo to close out the show. Go ahead, Mo.
I want to thank everybody that's in the chat. We appreciate you guys so much for showing up for us every morning. Thanks for everybody out there that's watching us on Roku, Facebook. Share this, smash that like button. Check out all the great content that's out there and offered to you from Sports Empire Network. I want to thank Will for coming in and filling in as well as he did. That's what Will does. Every time Will's on, he kills it. So he's a welcome guest every time he's on. I want to thank Gene for dropping the knowledge that he did today. Love how he broke things down in the NFL. Appreciate you guys.
And real quick, we'll be playing a short video from Northeast Sports. So hang around for that. I want to say thank you for everybody coming out once again. We do appreciate you. Check out all the fine shows here on Sports Empire Network. And we'll see you again. We see you guys again tomorrow, 9 p.m. Eastern time. Chris will be back then. We'll see you tomorrow.
I mean, you can see right now, without LeBron, Lakers are struggling.
Let me tell you about a team I hate, all right? I know the Dallas Cowboy fan is here, so I had to make sure he knew how much I hate this team.
I'm ready. I've often said that the people who run baseball, they try very hard to ruin it.
I'm from Brooklyn. I don't have a problem saying it to his face.
Oh, from Brooklyn.
Hey,